Good morning, boys and girls. We have a new letter today. This is our very last letter that we are learning. After this, we'll review for a couple of days, and then next week we will go back and we'll just go over each letter one day, practicing the sound and how to write it, and some words that begin with that letter. So this is the last letter that we're introducing or talking about. This is the letter Q. Q says qua, qua. It sounds like a K with a W next to it, qua. So this character, Mr. Q, has question marks all over his clothes. He likes to ask a lot of questions. So here's an uppercase Q. You go around and close it like the letter O, and then you put a little slant at the bottom. And then here's a lowercase q, which looks completely different. You go around and make your circle and close it. You come down, and then you kick back. Instead of making a hook like a G, we kick it back. Qua, qua. He has question marks all over his clothes. So this is the letter Q. Let's read our letter from Mr. Q, where he's going to talk about himself. I'm Mr. Q. My head is filled with questions. It's good to ask questions because you learn quite a lot. One time Miss P took a trip and wanted me to feed her pigs. I forgot to ask questions like, what do pigs eat? How much should they eat? I fed them a large quantity of food. The pigs got sick because they ate too much. Now I always ask questions. Dinosaurs are quite fascinating. I go to the library to read books that answer my many questions about them. You have to be very quiet in the library. When I travel to a quiz contest, I have so many questions about my trip that I make a list of my questions. What is the distance? What is the quickest way to get there? What is the weather? When I get answers to my questions, I'm so glad I asked. My sound is the sound you hear at the beginning of the word, questions. Find my hidden letters. I have an uppercase Q hidden among my question marks, and my mouth makes an uppercase Q. I live on Quack Track. My questions are often answered at the Letter People Library on Quail Trail. All right, boys and girls, so his mouth is an uppercase Q. Andy has an uppercase Q on the front of his outfit, and the zipper is almost a Q, but that little hook's at the bottom, so that's not one. Then he has question marks all over his clothes. He likes to ask questions, so his sound is qua, qua. So this is the letter Q. Q. All right, let's look at some pictures that we would put on our alphabet chart if we were here. There's an uppercase Q, and here is a lowercase q, but look at it, boys and girls. It doesn't have that little hook. And if you were here in the room, I could show you that a couple of different places too. Just like we talked about the letter J, when we make a lowercase j, I usually put a dot over it, and from an uppercase J, I usually make that line going across it, but we also talked about how sometimes you'll see it without the line going across it, or sometimes you'll see a lowercase j without the dot over it. Same thing with the letter Q. Most of the time you're going to see it like this, where it kicks back, but every once in a while you might see it somewhere like this, where it's just a straight line. It is still a Q, just different people sometimes make it different ways, and you'll learn that. The more you see the letter, you'll realize that you might see it made different ways. Usually it has that little tail kicking back, but right there it does not for some reason. All right, here is a picture. That is a queen. Queen begins with the letter Q. And what is this? Boys and girls, that is a question mark. We saw that in our reading book the other day in our title, when we read the book, What Can Fly? They had a question mark at the end because they were asking a question. This is a question mark. Oh, this little boy is telling us to be quiet. quiet begins with a Q. What is that? It's not a blanket. Turn it either way, I guess. It is called a quilt. When you see something that looks kind of like a blanket, but it's a little bit softer, different material, and it might have a pattern on it, or lots of different colors, or maybe somebody made it for you, that is a quilt. What sound does a duck make? Quack. Quack begins with the letter Q. Put it up here where maybe you can see it a little bit better. The duck says quack. And oh my goodness, he is so quick when he is running. Quick. So we have quack, quiet, queen, question mark, quilt, and quick. All begin with the letter Q. I'm going to tell you another little secret, boys and girls. Usually, almost every time that you see the letter Q, the next letter is almost always a U. For the word quack, Q-U. The word quiet has a Q and then a U. Queen has a Q and then a U. Question mark has a Q and then a U. Quilt has a Q and a U. And quick has a Q and then a U. There's a few words that do not, but almost every word that has a Q at the beginning, the next letter is a U. That's just a funny little thing that you'll notice as you get older. All right, so in your packet, you have your Q sound paper. All right, let's remember what we always do. We always put our name at the top. If you remember those couple of days that we were in school together, we learned a song that said the first thing on your paper is your name. The first thing on your paper is your name. The teacher needs to know who did this work. So the first thing on your paper is your name. All right, make sure you wrote your name with a pencil. We want to go back and make sure we are doing all our writing with a pencil. All right, here's our uppercase U. Curve it around and close it, and a little slant at the bottom. Our lowercase U starts at the dotted line. Curve it around and close it. Come down and kick it back. All right, the directions say color the pictures that begin with the qu sound. All right, this is a question mark, so you're going to color it. Boys and girls, I'm not sure what this is. If you know what this is, send me a message. Sometimes I'll look at these and I'm not sure. It's some type of fruit or vegetable. I can't think of any that begin with a Q, but if you know of one that I have forgotten about or not remembered, send me a message and I'll let people know. All right, net. Net does not begin with a Q. All right, these are called quiver. Quiver begins with a Q. This bird is a quail. Quail begins with a Q. Banjo. No. Queen. Yes, queen begins with a Q. Quilt. Yes, quilt begins with a Q. Hamburger. No. Oh, but boys and girls, guess what I just thought about? If you're at McDonald's and they're calling this a quarter pounder, that's going to begin with a Q. So if you went to color it, you may. They might be trying to trick us on that one. All right, boys and girls, this circle, they've cut 1/4 out of it. Like if I divided it into 4 parts, there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. That means this is a quarter of it. If this was a pie and they cut out 1 part, if they made it in 4 parts and then cut out 1 part, they would give you a quarter of it. Quarter begins with a Q. She's telling us to be quiet. Quiet begins with a Q. And boys and girls, I believe they're calling this a quartz. Quartz begins with a Q. The letter Q is tricky, and they've made it even trickier with some of these pictures. These are really tough for kindergarten. So let's go back and remember. We're going to color the question mark. Quiver, quail, queen, quilt. If you're calling that a quarter pounder, you may color it. They've cut out a quarter of this, or 1/4. So quarter is Q, quiet is Q, and quartz is Q. And if you know what they are calling this, send me a message, because Miss Powell does not know. And they do not give me any answers on these. I just have to try to figure it out myself. All right, so let's go back and look. Today we have learned that this is the letter Q. There is an uppercase Q. There is a lowercase q, and the letter Q makes the qu sound. Q says qu. All right, boys and girls, have a great day, and let me know if you have any questions.